Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and in this case talking about something kind of strange because I just saw this online and was like, wow, that's actually a great deal. And it sounds a little bit ironic given that it's my own knife, the one I designed for Aitor, a Spanish knife manufacturer that's been around forever. These guys have been making knives even when I was a kid. I remember seeing in the magazines the Aitor survival knives like the Jungle King 1 and 2 and a bunch of others. And long story short, I ended up designing a knife for them. Now, this was a while back. I just saw on Amazon a company that is selling these for $160. Let me tell you, it is the best deal you have in any survival knife in the market right now. I know what I designed. I know what's being made, and for that money, that kind of steel, the knife itself, the size, you don't find that. It is extremely rare that you get for under $200 that kind of quality. So, and yeah, I've not been in contact, and I certainly don't know anything about the marketing and sales. I just saw it online and thought, man, that is really a great price, right? So I'll leave the links there below in Amazon, as I always do. It is from the affiliate of Amazon, doesn't change your price one bit, but if you end up buying it, that's awesome. But I want to insist on this thing. For that kind of money, if you look at Falknevens, if you look at anything that is using 1095, which is an okay steel, don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but it's not this. My knives made by Aitor are N680. That's boiler steel, very high quality steel by one of the best known steel makers in Europe. These things are on the line of what an Extrema ratio uses. In fact, the prototype that I'm still using till this day, I still use this as my go-to survival knife. This is N690, right? N680 was what I originally talked about with Aitor, but they told me, you know what? We still have a lot of N690. Is that okay? And it was like, sure, it is. It is great. It's not just okay, it's fantastic. It's a great steel. It is very well known. It's what Extrema Ratio uses, and they sell premium knives. Those are expensive knives, right? Because the quality of steel is very good. But N680 was really where it was at for me because it is a lot tougher. So with a little bit less edge retention, and we're still talking about so much better edge retention than anything you get from a 1095 carbon steel knife, which is what typically you find being used in some of the very expensive survival knives. If you look at some of the 1095 knives out there, survival knives, these go for $200, $250, and it's your basic cheap carbon steel, which is, again, it is okay, but it's not this stuff. This is more in lines of VG10. This is more in line with higher tier price tag attached to it, right? So in terms of the design of the knife itself, well, this is what I wanted to do. This is the design that I had in my mind all along. At least this is for me, this survival knife that I wanted to have. Something that has this broad head so as to have a little bit better chopping ability. Inspired in one of the Griffin designs that he made for Schrade. I know it looks nothing like that. I think it's FC9, I think it is. But that is the thing that got me started in. Yeah, I do like that recurved. I don't like having a finger choil. I don't like the grip, but the general shape of the blade, and again, nothing here is invention. All of this has been made a million times. But this is the shape that I had in mind myself. And I got lucky enough that I ended up in contact with Aitor, and they ended up making the knife, and it's still out there. So yeah, I mean, hell, it is a heck of a deal. I just cannot insist on that enough because it really is. I have a Falknevens, which I love. They're beautiful knives. You have a Cold Steel and their SRK series, great knives. It's not this. This is full tank construction of an extremely, especially with the N680, the boiler N680, this is a freaking monster of a steel. And I've personally tested in terms of edge retention because I wanted to know, how much can I cut with this thing? How much can I cut with a 1095? How much can I cut between these two? What's going to be the difference? I know that the toughness, that's directly what the manufacturer of both these steels is telling me, that this is tremendously tough steel. But how much of an edge retention am I losing? And it's really, you can't tell the difference in any practical test that I was able to do. It is just in cardboard cutting and so on until you start tearing. It is just, and when you compare it at the same time with cheaper steels, it is just something else. The ease of sharpening, I haven't noticed a difference using one of the many ceramic rods, and that's a good segue to actually what you get when you buy the knife. The knife comes with this sheath, which is the sheath from the Jungle King 2, no, the Jungle King 2 is smaller. There's another sheath that they make, which is a little bit larger, and this is the one they had, and this is something that I had to specifically adjust so as to make it fit right here. The shape that I wanted to have, it had to fit in the sheath, and that's why this thing swallows the knife. If you put the knife on top, it is not like those giant ass sheaths that you go like, this thing is ridiculous, it's so much bigger. No, the knife is basically stretched to the maximum capability of what the sheath can fit. And I think it was a lot of work, man. It was a lot of work. I'm doing the video because I saw it at a nice discount, and I thought that's pretty awesome. So these come with a kit on its own. It has a kit in the bag. You have some cordage. This is not 550 paracord. You can do these things yourself. You can customize. For example, for my knife, again, this is one of the prototypes that I'm still using. I got a handle made. I did this myself so as to test it properly. This is actually a knife that you see in some of the tests that I did when first making the knife, cutting through a piece of brick wall with masonry and cement and cutting pieces of metal and so on. This is the knife. I just got a nicer handle on it, and I got the sheath for it, and I wrapped this thing myself because it was not complete. So I wrapped it with some 550 paracord, and I have a sharpening stone that I glued there myself. But this is this as it comes from Aitor. It's gonna be with a sharpening stone that you have there. Yeah, you can sharpen the knife just fine. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit tricky if you're not used to having a recurved edge, but I just like the recurved advantage. We'll get into that in a second. Now, this is something that was specifically designed for this knife, and this was, if you can believe it, it was a lot of work having someone make this in a solid enough way so that it would stay in place. And well, they actually did it. Here you have a little tube with some survival supplies. You have fishing hook, Band-Aid, and a ferro rod in here, and a couple other things. But even more interesting, you have a tiny second knife. You have a little Skinner knife within the knife itself. So this is something that, and it says right here, Jungle King 2. This is the Skinner that also comes in the Jungle King 2. And it's all for $160, $167, I think. You have a ton of knife. You have one of the best sheaths in the market. Having this sheath do you know why no one makes these things? Because it's so damn expensive. You need to make the mold. It is fiberglass injected. It's not some cheap plastic. It's not some Kydex sheet. Oh, yeah, I buy my fancy bussy knife that costs $300 or $500, and they have a sheath made from this guy. Whatever guy you have in mind, he's not going to be making this sheath. This thing is a damn monster. This company, the steel that they use, this is very cool, but the steel they use in the first batch using N690, that was steel intended for bayonets for Saudi Arabia, some army, that wanted to make some nice bayonets made by Aitor in Spain. So they got, and afterwards it was either some leftover of the contract or something went down there. But anyway, these are guys that are working on a different level. It's not like, they make knives for armies, for military guys, for people that really want some of the best you can have. And that's why I made the effort of making things fit into the sheath, because the sheath was an important part of it. The idea, one of the things I've complained about with bussy knives and so on is, not having a sheath, that sucks. But this is NATO approved strapping, so as to keep it locked in place like that. There's a massive difference in quality between this and just having your Kydex sheath made by some dude in his garage. There's just no comparison. The little knife also works as a Skinner, as a harpoon. This is not a seatbelt cutter. This is a gut hook, for opening a fish and just catching it and open it like that. This is supposed to fit also in some of the nuts smaller ones, a bottle opener thing, and basically it's a tiny harpoon if it comes down to it, while at the same time I'm not strapping my knife around a stick and throwing it against something. No, I use this piece of metal if I have to, so as to make a proper little spear, and I'm not sacrificing my knife. Again, these are things, I mean, I'm borrowing here from knives that they've been making for a long time with this little kit. So I love that you are able to get this thrown in here, and you can use it or not. If you want something that's more slimlined, you can go with that. You can attach the bag somewhere else. This will hold in place quite nicely, so that's cool. But yeah, I just saw it and I thought, you know what, people, if they want to take advantage. And I also was reminded by this because I got an email from a guy that said, dude, I bought your knife, it's so fucking awesome, I love it so much. Well, great. He goes, I don't even want to use it. For crying out loud, use the freaking thing. Don't be scared. Don't be worried about using it. Anything can be broken. We all know that. But if you break this knife, you really put a lot of effort. I mean, maybe with a big enough pipe and leverage, putting it in a couple somewhere in a vise and putting it out. Yeah, you're gonna be snapping anything, but this thing just slashing and cutting and chopping away, no, hell no. I chopped rocks with this thing and it's still doing just fine. So yeah, it is, and the shape has an entire story. I don't want to make the video super long, but the idea of draw cutting, the idea of going very close to the hand, the idea of using this for more fine cutting, the idea of having this part of the edge not making contact with what you're cutting and so on. It's been a massive process. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. The tip is tremendously strong. It is not as narrow as you would, let's say you go with a Bowie or Bowie clip point, right? More pointy, because I want to go with this. Well, you can do that, but you're going to be sacrificing rigidity in that tip. This tip will not break. I use this tip to punch holes in a big piece of metal that needed some drainage for one of these barbecue things, for a barbecue setup that had no drainage holes, and I punch it with this. I just went stabbing it was very thick steel gauge, and nothing. There's no damage. So it's not gonna be fantastic at needle point penetration, right? But man, it will it will go through stuff, and it will maintain its structural integrity, speaking in more technical terms. How thick do you make it? How thin do you make it? How much penetration do you have? The exact angle of it is all things that go into a design that if you put as much effort as I did, well, I think that the result is quite satisfactory. In terms of chopping ability for its size, I think you will not find something that at this, what is it, like 7 inches? I don't even remember, 7.5, somewhere, yeah, just a little bit under those 8-inch blade. You have a very strong, let me just compare it in terms of blade length, just to give you an idea. I have my other loved knife of mine, the Glock knife, but the blade length is kind of like that. It's kind of, And why is that? Because again, these are things that have been researched. There's a reason why Glock uses this blade length. There's a reason why I use pretty much the exact blade length, because it is overall the perfect blade length for a survival knife. Right, this is gonna be thicker, this is gonna be stronger, this is gonna be a lot more durable, and it's gonna be heavier as well, and it's gonna be more expensive. That's a $50 knife. This is $160. You're looking at something that is, at least the way I see it, what I conceived as, at least for me, the perfect survival knife. And it was just super happy to see it going at a nice price. Don't miss out if you really want to get one of these things. It's a great price, and again, you just don't see these things for that price in general. It is, if you know, let me do this. If you know a knife of this size, I'm just putting that parameter, this size of a knife, this quality of steel, and it's not mine, and it's available. So let me know. I will buy it myself. I love knives. I buy all sorts of knives all the time. If there's something awesome out there, I probably want to check it out or just add it to the collection. But usually that price range is reserved for the epoxy covered 1095 knives. They're okay. They're not this. See you next time, guys. And if you haven't got already my book, Surviving the Economic Collapse and Street Survival Skills, you will also have the links there below in the description. See you next time.